Chaos is not a modern invention. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor wrote these words to himself in the quiet of night: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That man was Marcus Aurelius, and his personal journal, known as Meditations, became one of history's most profound guides to finding calm amid difficulty. This is not a story of abstract philosophy, but a practical toolkit shaped during times of immense challenge, widespread illness, and deep personal trials. By the end of this exploration, you will have a clear understanding of core Stoic practices, like the dichotomy of control and mindful presence, that you can apply directly to the pressures of your own life. We will uncover how a man leading an empire through turbulent times managed to cultivate an unshakable inner peace, and what lessons his ancient wisdom holds for our modern anxieties. What does true resilience look like to you when everything seems to be shifting around you? Marcus Aurelius did not practice Stoicism in tranquility. He forged his calm in the furnace of relentless crisis. His philosophy was not a pleasant intellectual exercise but a survival tool, tested daily against forces that threatened to shake his empire and his inner peace. He faced near-constant military conflict along the northern frontiers, a widespread outbreak of illness that moved through the population, and the deep personal challenges that often accompany positions of authority. In the midst of this, he wrote notes to himself, not as an emperor but as a person striving for balance. He reminded himself, the obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This was his core operating principle, viewing every hardship not as a final verdict but as raw material for building resilience. Historians note the period of the Marcomannic Wars, a series of demanding conflicts against Germanic tribes, stretched the empire's resources thin. At the same time, the Antonine Plague presented a severe health crisis, reshaping how early communities functioned and supported one another. Through it all, his personal journal reveals a mind constantly turning difficulty into a training ground. Think of a recent challenge you faced, large or small. Did your initial reaction frame it as an obstacle blocking your path, or did you glimpse, even for a moment, the hidden opportunity for growth lying within it? What is truly within your power to change? This single question became the bedrock of Marcus Aurelius's unshakable calm, a principle Stoics call the dichotomy of control. It is the practice of drawing a clear, unwavering line between the things we cannot command and the one thing we always can, our own inner response. In his private writings, Marcus constantly reinforced this separation. He would observe that an event itself is neutral, and it is our opinion about it that assigns it power, writing that you are disturbed not by things, but by the views you take of them. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about recognizing the true source of your agency. Think of a common modern frustration, like being stuck in unmoving traffic. The traffic jam itself, the red lights, the actions of other drivers, these are all entirely outside your control. Your frustration or anxiety will not clear the road a single second sooner. But your judgment of the situation, your decision to use the time to listen to an audiobook or simply practice patience, that is your sovereign territory. This mental shift transforms a stressful ordeal into a manageable, even useful interlude. Can you identify one recurring situation in your own life where consciously separating what you control from what you do not could begin to dissolve a layer of anxiety? This ancient practice turns the chaos of the world into a field for cultivating a profound and personal peace. What if every obstacle was not a barrier, but the very path itself? This is the radical heart of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. For Marcus Aurelius, this was not passive resignation, but an active, almost fierce embrace of every single event, including hardship and personal transition, viewing it all as essential fuel for his development. He wrote in his Meditations that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. He trained himself to accept the events of his life willingly, not just with patience, but with a sense of gratitude for their hidden purpose. Imagine a modern professional facing an unexpected career shift, a project cancellation, or a role change they did not choose. The initial reaction might be frustration or a feeling of uncertainty. Yet, by applying this principle, they could begin to reinterpret that event not as a block, but as a necessary redirection. It might be the universe or simply the flow of life, guiding them toward a different opportunity they had not previously considered, one that ultimately aligns more deeply with their skills and values. This mindset transforms the narrative from one of difficulty to one of active partnership with reality itself. Can you identify a past challenge that, in hindsight, you are grateful for because of what it taught you about your own strength or direction? That feeling of retrospective appreciation is a glimpse into the powerful calm that comes from loving your fate. From the fierce embrace of fate, we can rise even higher to find a profound sense of calm. Picture your life not from within the struggle, but from a great distance, as if you were looking down from a point high above the earth. Your home becomes a tiny square, your city a faint smudge of light, and the vast expanse of the planet stretches out in all directions. This is the essence of the Stoic exercise known as the view from above, a practice Marcus Aurelius used to shrink his anxieties down to their true size. He would remind himself to frequently take a view of the cosmos, a mind in which all things are part of a continuous flow, a vastness where the briefest of human lives are but a single moment. He was not dismissing his duties, but rather placing them within the grand, interconnected story of the entire universe. This cosmic perspective reveals how our most urgent worries are confined to a tiny speck in an unimaginably large and ancient cosmos. Consider the next time a stressful email arrives or a troubling news headline flashes on your screen. Before your emotions fully engage, pause for just a few seconds and perform this mental shift. Zoom out in your mind, see the building you are in, then the neighborhood, then the whole city, continuing until the entire planet is a silent, blue marble hanging in the immense quiet of space. From that vantage point, how large does that single problem truly appear? This practice does not make our lives meaningless. It frames them within a breathtaking context that can drain the panic from any immediate crisis. The next time a challenge feels overwhelming, remember that you possess this incredible power to change your vantage point, to see the vastness of which you are a part, and in doing so, rediscover a quiet center within the storm. The next time you feel a surge of anger or fear, pause and question your initial judgment. This simple act of hesitation is the gateway to a profound Stoic practice that Marcus Aurelius relied upon, the disciplined suspension of our automatic reactions. He wrote that our disturbances arise not from external events themselves, but from the perceptions we attach to them. An event is simply an event, a collection of facts. It is our mind that hastily wraps it in a story of catastrophe or injustice, and it is this story, not the event, that causes our emotional turmoil. Marcus instructed himself to strip away the value-laden narrative, to see things for what they are, bare of opinion. Imagine receiving thoughtful feedback on a project you care about deeply. The raw data is a series of words or suggestions. your initial, unchecked judgment might instantly label this as a personal challenge, a sign of difficulty, sparking defensiveness and frustration. But what if you could intercept that judgment before it takes root? You could choose to see the exact same words as neutral information, a collection of data points that could potentially be used to improve your work. The event did not change, but your relationship to it transforms entirely, moving from a state of conflict to a state of learning. This is not about becoming emotionally numb, but about reclaiming the space between stimulus and response, the very space where your freedom and your calm reside. What is one event from your recent past that you initially labeled as difficult, that you could now reinterpret by simply suspending that first, flinching judgment? True freedom is not getting what you want, but wanting what is right. This is the core of the Stoic discipline of desire, a practice Marcus Aurelius dedicated himself to daily. He understood that the root of so much inner turmoil lies in our attachments to outcomes we cannot command, from the approval of others to the accumulation of possessions. His solution was a profound shift in perspective. He trained his mind to desire only what was truly and always within his power, his own virtue, his integrity, his judgments, and his actions. Everything else, he reasoned, was not for him to crave because it was not his to control. In his meditations, he cuts directly to the heart of the issue, writing that wealth and status are not the solution. He observed that the pursuit of these externals is like chasing a phantom, a cycle of wanting, getting, and then immediately wanting something more, leaving you perpetually restless. We have a modern term for this exact phenomenon, the hedonic treadmill, the exhausting cycle of striving for the next promotion, the newer car, the larger home, believing that this next achievement will finally bring lasting happiness, only to find the feeling is temporary and the desire simply shifts to a new object. The Stoic alternative is to step off the treadmill entirely by redirecting your deepest wants inward. What is one thing you intensely desire that lies outside your direct control, perhaps a specific outcome at work or a particular response from someone you care about? Now consider the mental energy you expend on that desire. What if you consciously released your attachment to that specific result and instead focused your desire solely on acting with honesty, kindness, and excellence regardless of the outcome? This shift does not mean giving up on goals, but it fundamentally changes your relationship to them, trading anxiety for a profound and steady calm. Your worth is no longer tied to things that can be taken away, but is built on the solid ground of your own character. Your role is not to complain about the world, but to play your part in it with excellence. This was the driving force behind Marcus Aurelius and his discipline of action. For him, the immense weight of imperial duty was never a burden to resent. It was the very arena in which he could practice virtue. His writings are filled with this sense of purpose, reminding himself to do what is necessary for the human community, to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over, unmoved, while the waters around it calm into stillness. He saw his work not as a series of tasks to complete, but as a continuous opportunity to express his character through right action. This transforms every responsibility from a chore into a sacred practice. Think about your own daily obligations, the work projects, the household chores, the commitments to family and community. The Stoic approach asks you to shift your attention from the often unpredictable outcome to the one thing you can always command, the quality of your effort in the moment. Washing a dish can become an exercise in mindfulness and care. Completing a report can be done with full attention and integrity, not for the praise it might bring, but because doing any task well is a reflection of your own inner state. In your current responsibilities, how can you shift your focus from the outcome to the quality of your action itself? When you pour your full self into the action for the benefit of the whole and not just for personal gain, you are not just completing a task, you are building a life of meaning. Within you is a quiet, unassailable stronghold that no external event can ever breach. This was the core of Marcus Aurelius's resilience, a concept he lived by which he called the Inner Citadel. He described it as a fortress of the mind, a sanctuary built not of stone, but of disciplined thought and reasoned judgment. To him, this inner space was the true self, the one constant in a world of constant change and challenge. He wrote that you can retreat into this inner citadel anytime, for nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and less troubled refuge than in his own mind. This was not an escape from reality, but a conscious turning inward to the one place where he remained sovereign. The constant noise of the empire, the demands of leadership, the news of conflict, none of it could touch the calm he cultivated within those mental walls. It was a practice of mental sovereignty, a daily reaffirmation that his peace was his own to create and protect. Think of your own mind as a private, secure room to which only you hold the key. During a stressful commute, when the noise and frustration of traffic begin to mount, you can consciously choose to step into this space through just a few mindful breaths. For those few moments, you are not a person stuck in a car. You are a person observing the situation from a place of untouchable calm. The traffic has not moved, but your relationship to it has fundamentally shifted. Where is your inner citadel, and how can you strengthen its walls today? It might be through 60 seconds of focused breathing before a difficult meeting, or a moment of quiet reflection after a challenging conversation. Each small act of turning inward is like adding another stone to that unbreachable wall, reinforcing the truth that your greatest peace is always waiting for you, just behind your own eyes. You could leave life right now. That single thought was a constant companion for Marcus Aurelius, a sobering reminder he returned to again and again. He wrote in his journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This was the heart of the Stoic practice known as Memento Mori, the remembrance that life is finite. For him, this was not a dark fixation, but a powerful tool to burn away trivial concerns and ignite a fierce urgency for living with purpose. He reflected constantly on the impermanence of all things, from the fleeting fame of a celebrated orator to the eventual return of his own body to the earth, observing how all of us are just a tiny part of a vast and continuous cycle. This perspective was not meant to create fear, but to create focus. Imagine you are working on a project with a firm and non-negotiable deadline. Knowing the time is limited, you instinctively cut through distractions, you prioritize the essential tasks, and you pour your full attention into the work that truly matters. Memento Mori applies this same clarifying pressure to your entire life, transforming vague someday goals into present-moment priorities. It asks you to consider, if you knew with certainty that this was your final week, what trivial concerns or unnecessary conflicts would you abandon immediately, and what long postponed act of kindness or creativity would you finally begin? This contemplation does not shrink your life, it deepens it, filling each ordinary moment with a profound sense of value and intention, because you are no longer waiting to live. You are living fully right now. What if you actively imagine things going wrong, not to fear them, but to disarm them? This is the essence of Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of difficulties, a Stoic exercise Marcus Aurelius used to build a different kind of courage. He did not practice this to dwell on negativity, but to perform a strategic inoculation of the mind against life's inevitable surprises. By calmly and rationally visualizing potential setbacks in advance, he stripped future challenges of their emotional power and their ability to shock him into a reactive state. In his writings, he consistently prepared himself for the reality that plans will shift, that trusted individuals may act in ways he did not expect, and that each day would present its own unique tests. He was not predicting doom, he was rehearsing his own steady response, ensuring that when a tough moment arrived, his composure was already waiting for it. Consider a modern example: preparing for a crucial and difficult conversation with a colleague or a family member. Your worry likely stems from imagining the conversation going poorly, from the other person reacting with frustration or dismissal. Now apply this Stoic drill. Sit quietly and mentally walk through that exact scenario. Imagine them responding with the very words you fear most, but instead of panicking, you watch yourself in this mental rehearsal responding with calm, listening intently, and sticking to your reasoned points without being pulled into a conflict. The event itself has not changed, but by pre-living it, you have drained it of its surprise and its power to control you. You have already faced the most difficult version in the safety of your mind, and you have a plan. What is one future event you are quietly concerned about? How would mentally rehearsing a calm and reasoned response to a challenging outcome fundamentally change your approach to preparing for it? This practice transforms anxiety from a paralyzing force into a simple checklist of prepared responses, leaving you not with fear, but with a quiet and ready confidence. You are not an isolated being, but a vital part of a single, living whole. This Stoic principle, known as sympatheia, was a profound source of both comfort and duty for Marcus Aurelius. He saw the entire cosmos as bound together by a universal reason, a shared breath that animated everything from the stars in the sky to the people in his empire. His personal writings are filled with this vision, reminding himself that all things are intertwined with one another. A sacred bond exists between them, and hardly one thing is alien to another. He saw himself not just as the emperor of Rome, but as a citizen of the cosmos, a single leaf on a vast, ancient tree. This perspective dissolved the illusion of separation, replacing loneliness with a deep sense of belonging to something magnificent and eternal. In our modern world, it is easy to feel disconnected, to see our struggles as purely personal battles fought in isolation. Yet the Stoic view suggests that this feeling is an illusion. Your well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole. Just as a hand cannot feel healthy if the body is ill, your personal peace contributes to a larger harmony. Think of a time you felt supported by a community, or even a single stranger's kindness. That feeling of connection is a glimpse into the reality of sympatheia, a reminder that we are all strands in the same intricate web. How does seeing yourself as part of a larger whole change your perspective on a current personal conflict? Perhaps a disagreement with a coworker shifts from a personal clash to a mere misalignment within a shared purpose. Maybe a family tension softens when viewed as a temporary ripple in a deep and enduring bond. This cosmic citizenship does not erase your individual challenges, but it frames them within a context so vast that it naturally cultivates patience, empathy, and a resilient calm. Fight the battle, not the fact that there is a battle. This simple distinction is the heart of a profound Stoic practice Marcus Aurelius called the art of acquiescence, the clear-eyed acceptance of reality as it is. He saw futile resistance to circumstance as a primary source of human exhaustion, a draining of energy better spent on what could actually be done. His journal is filled with quiet reminders to himself, urging acceptance of everything which happens, even if it seems unwelcome, because it serves a larger order. He was not advocating for passivity, but for a strategic starting point. You must first accept the unchangeable facts of your situation, the material actually in your hands, before you can work with it effectively. Imagine you have meticulously planned an outdoor gathering, and the day arrives with a sudden, steady rain. The fact of the rain is now part of your reality, a piece of the material at hand. You have two choices. You can expend your mental energy complaining about the weather, wishing it were different, and growing increasingly frustrated. Or you can fully accept the rain as a simple fact, not a personal attack. This acceptance immediately frees your mind to pivot, to consider moving the event indoors, or to embrace the novelty of a rainy day picnic. The situation has not changed, but your relationship to it has transformed from one of conflict to one of creative partnership. What reality are you currently resisting in your own life? A situation you constantly wish were different? Is it a particular dynamic at work, a financial constraint, or a personal limitation? How much mental energy do you spend each day fighting the simple fact that this situation exists? What if, just for today, you stopped arguing with reality and simply accepted it as your starting point? This act of acquiescence is not surrender. It is the essential first step to reclaiming your power and directing your energy toward a constructive and calm response. He periodically chose discomfort to ensure comfort would not master him. This was the disciplined heart of Marcus Aurelius's practice of voluntary hardship, a deliberate training to build immunity against the softness that ease can bring. As emperor, he possessed access to every luxury imaginable, yet he consciously denied himself certain comforts to maintain his inner strength. He would sleep on a simple bed, sometimes just a blanket spread on the floor, and he practiced periods of fasting, not for any health trend, but to remind his own body and mind who was truly in charge. The Stoic philosophers he followed taught that temperance was not about deprivation for its own sake, but about forging a will that could not be easily broken by external circumstances. They called it strengthening the self, preparing the spirit for the day when fortune might withdraw its favor, ensuring that a person would not be overwhelmed by the loss of what was never truly theirs to keep. This is not about seeking out pain, but about strategically testing your own limits in small, manageable ways so that when a larger challenge arrives, you are not encountering difficulty for the first time. Think of the modern equivalent of taking a cold shower. The initial sensation is a small, voluntary act of discomfort. You are not doing it because you enjoy the cold, but because you are practicing the art of standing firm in the face of an unpleasant feeling, proving to yourself that you can move through it without complaint. Or consider a 24-hour digital detox, willingly stepping away from the constant stream of notifications and entertainment. The minor restlessness you feel is the very muscle of resilience being exercised. What small, voluntary discomfort could you introduce into your week to strengthen your resilience against life's inevitable hardships? It might be walking in cooler weather without a jacket for a short while, or choosing a simpler meal, or turning off the background noise for an hour to sit in quiet. Each small act of self-discipline is a vote for your own inner sovereignty, a quiet declaration that your peace does not depend on perfect conditions. Pour your concentration into the task immediately before you and nothing else. This single instruction captures the essence of Stoic mindfulness, a practice that anchored Marcus Aurelius against the turbulent tides of what might happen and what had already occurred. He wrote that the present moment is all anyone ever truly possesses, observing that each of us lives only in this tiny, fleeting instant. The rest of our life is either memory or anticipation, two realms where anxiety thrives. His calm was not found in rewriting the past or controlling the future, but in a full and complete surrender to the sufficiency of the now. He trained himself to see any task, no matter how small or routine, as a worthy object for his complete attention. Consider the simple act of drinking a cup of tea. You can do it while scrolling through messages on a screen, your mind split between the warmth of the cup and a dozen digital distractions. Or you can choose to do only that. Feel the heat seep into your hands, notice the subtle aroma, taste the flavor on your tongue without any other thought. In that focused act, there is no past regret, no future worry, only the direct experience of the tea. The same principle transforms a work task. When you commit to writing a single email or completing one report with your entire mind, refusing the pull of other tabs or notifications, the work itself often becomes clearer and more effortless. The mental noise of deadlines and potential complications fades into the background, leaving only the next logical step. Right now, in this moment, what problem truly exists that is not a thought about the past or future? The lingering tension from a yesterday's conversation is a memory. The nervousness about a tomorrow's meeting is an anticipation. This present second, as you hear these words, is likely free from any immediate crisis. That space is your refuge, a sanctuary of calm always available whenever you remember to step inside and fully inhabit the only time that is ever truly yours. A rational universe is guided by a rational principle, and your own mind is a fragment of that divine fire. For Marcus Aurelius, this was not a poetic image but the foundational truth he built his life upon. He called this principle logos, the universal reason that orders the cosmos, from the turning of the planets to the rhythm of the seasons. He saw his own capacity for thought as a small spark of this vast, intelligent flame, and his primary duty was to ensure that his personal reason stayed in harmony with this cosmic wisdom. This harmony was the source of his deep sense of order and purpose. He wrote in his meditations that a person should live in agreement with nature, meaning to live in tune with both your own true self, which is rational, and the nature of the whole universe, which is also rational. This was his compass. Imagine a skilled sailor on a great ocean. The sailor cannot control the winds or the currents. These are the forces of nature, the logos of the sea. But he can control the tiller and the sails, using his own skill and reason to navigate those very forces. He does not fight an unfavorable wind, he adjusts his course. He works with the ocean, not against it, trusting that the sea has its own order, and his role is to understand and move with it. Marcus Aurelius saw his life in just this way. His reason was the tiller, and the events of the world were the winds and waves. Every decision, every action was a chance to steer skillfully. When you face a difficult choice, ask yourself this simple but deep question. Are you acting in harmony with your highest rational self, or are you being pulled by a passing, irrational impulse? Is your inner compass set by the calm, long-term wisdom of your true nature, or is it being turned by the storm of a temporary feeling? To live according to nature is to listen for that quiet, steady voice within, the fragment of the divine fire that always guides toward what is right, not merely what is easy. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the Stoic alchemy that Marcus Aurelius practiced daily, a mental furnace where every hardship and opposition was transformed into fuel for his growth. He did not see a difficult person as a nuisance, but as a training partner for his patience. He did not view a military setback as a defeat, but as a necessary lesson in strategy and resilience. In his own words, he recognized that our antagonists, with all their resistance, are actually helping us, for they train us to become more patient, more understanding, and more creative in our responses. A smooth and predictable life offers no such training ground. It is the friction, the very resistance we instinctively push against, that sharpens our character and reveals our hidden strengths. Think of a modern professional who faces an unexpected shift in their industry, perhaps a new technology that makes their primary skill seem less relevant. The initial reaction might be concern or a sense of being challenged. Yet, by applying this Stoic principle, that very obstacle, that intimidating new technology, can be reframed as the very path forward. It becomes the compelling reason to learn a new and valuable skill, one that may ultimately open doors to opportunities they had never before considered. The obstacle did not change, but their relationship to it transformed it from a barrier into a catalyst. What is one current obstacle in your own life, a recurring frustration or a sudden setback? How could you consciously reframe it not as a problem, but as a unique opportunity to practice a specific virtue like patience, creative thinking, or quiet perseverance? That shift in perspective is the first and most crucial step in turning your own roadblocks into the road itself. As dusk fell, Marcus would retreat from the demands of the empire to perform his most personal Stoic ritual, a quiet and honest review of his day. He would mentally walk back through his actions and reactions, holding them up against the clear light of his philosophical principles. Where had he allowed frustration to dictate his words? Where had a selfish impulse clouded his judgment? This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but a method of calibration, a way to gently realign his character with the person he aspired to be. His journal, The Meditations, is itself a powerful record of this constant introspection, filled with notes to himself that served as both reminder and gentle redirection. A modern version of this practice is remarkably simple and just as potent. In the final 5 minutes before sleep, take a notebook and make 2 brief lists. The first, what was well done today, where you acted with patience, integrity, or kindness. The second, what could be improved, a moment where you fell short of your own standards. The goal is not to dwell on missteps, but to acknowledge them with clear eyes, learning from them so you can do better tomorrow. This daily review closes the day with intention, turning ordinary life into a continuous curriculum for growth. If you were to review your today with Stoic honesty, what one thought or action would you identify as not being in alignment with your best self? People will sometimes be frustrating, ungrateful, and unfair. This is simply part of life. Marcus Aurelius did not expect the people in his life, from senators to family members, to act with perfect virtue. He accepted this reality as part of the shared human experience, and his writings show how he prepared his mind for it. He focused his energy not on the impossible task of changing others, but on the sovereign task of governing his own reactions. He reminded himself that when another person does wrong, it is often out of a lack of understanding, and to be upset with them is as pointless as being upset with a fig tree for not producing olives. His practice was to meet every act of perceived injustice not with a matching frustration, but with his own unwavering character, with patience, kindness, and a clear sense of what was truly within his power. Imagine a common workplace scenario where a colleague consistently takes credit for shared ideas. The initial, natural reaction might be resentment, a feeling of being treated unfairly. The thoughtful approach begins by drawing the line of control. You cannot command your colleagues' actions or their need for recognition. That lies entirely outside your circle of influence. But your response, your decision to either address the situation with calm clarity, to document your contributions without accusation, or to simply continue producing excellent work without needing the public credit, that is your own territory. This reframes the entire situation from a battle over external validation to an internal practice of integrity. Think of someone who consistently irritates you. How can you apply this same understanding to your reactions, focusing solely on your own response, your own judgment, and your own positive action, regardless of their behavior? This is not about condoning poor conduct, but about freeing yourself from the emotional turbulence that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. By releasing others for their lack of awareness, as Marcus did, you are not excusing them, you are liberating yourself, building an inner calm that no external friction can ever disrupt. For a Stoic, leadership is not about privilege but profound responsibility. This was the reality Marcus Aurelius lived every single day, translating abstract philosophy into the concrete actions of governing an empire. His authority was immense, yet his personal writings reveal a person who saw that influence as a sacred duty to be exercised with justice and fairness for the common good. He wrote in his meditations that what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee, a simple yet powerful reminder that a leader's well-being is inseparable from the well-being of those they lead. His commitment to justice was not a political strategy, but a direct application of the core Stoic virtue of living in agreement with nature and reason. He believed that to act unjustly was a violation of his own rational nature, a kind of inner discord far more troubling than any external challenge he might face. This philosophy demanded he constantly ask himself whether his decisions benefited only himself or served the larger human community. The modern parallel is clear, whether you are managing a team at work, leading a community project, or even guiding a family. Any position of authority, however small it may seem, is a platform for practicing this same Stoic virtue. It is the choice to listen fairly to all sides before making a decision, to allocate resources not based on preference but on genuine need, and to use your voice to support those with less influence. In your own sphere, how can you exercise power more justly and for the common good today? Perhaps it is by advocating for a quieter colleague in a meeting, or by making a decision that is right for the long-term health of your team, even if it is not the most popular choice in the moment. Every act of fair leadership, no matter the scale, is a stone laid in the foundation of a more resilient and harmonious world, echoing the ancient emperor who understood that true strength is found not in commanding others, but in serving them with unwavering integrity. You do not have unlimited time. This realization is not a cause for panic but for focus. Marcus Aurelius wielded the awareness of his own finite days like a tool, using it to carve away the non-essential and dedicate his energy solely to meaningful work. He observed in his private journal how time is a river, a swift current of events, glimpsed once and then carried past. He saw how quickly all that is beautiful and admired fades into memory, noting that even those who are remembered are soon forgotten in a second wave of time. This was not a dark fixation for him. It was a clarifying force, a lens that magnified what truly mattered and rendered life's smaller grievances and distractions transparent. He asked himself constantly if the thing that troubled him was worth the irreplaceable breath he was spending on it. This practice helped him rise above minor slights and daily frustrations, directing his immense responsibility toward actions that served justice and the common good. The shortness of life was his most powerful motivator for living well in the present moment. You can apply this same principle not through dramatic life changes, but through a single, quiet edit to your daily routine. Identify one consistent time-wasting activity, perhaps the repeated checking of a social media feed or the mental replay of a minor, unresolved irritation. Then make the conscious choice to set it aside, to reclaim those minutes for something that aligns with your deeper values, even if that something is simply a moment of quiet presence. Knowing your time is limited, what trivial concern are you willing to release your grip on right now? Set your hand to the task but hold the result lightly. This is the wisdom of the Stoic reserve clause, a practice Marcus Aurelius lived by. He poured his entire being into the duties of an emperor, yet he carried out his work with a quiet understanding that the final outcome was not his alone to command. He could control his effort, his integrity, his strategic decisions, but he could not control the unpredictable tides of fortune, the actions of distant generals, or the spread of illness. His journal reveals a mind that did its part fully while simultaneously releasing its grip on the specific fruits of that labor. The ancient teacher Epictetus illustrated this with the perfect analogy of an archer. The archer's job is to do everything within his power. He selects the best arrow, he strengthens his arm through training, he takes careful aim, and he releases the string with a smooth and practiced motion. His entire focus is on the quality of his own action, but once the arrow is in flight, a sudden gust of wind can deflect it from its target. The archer does not control the wind. A Stoic, therefore, would commend the archer who performed every step with excellence, even if the arrow missed, and would find no fault in the one who hit the target purely by a lucky calm. The virtue was in the aiming, not in the random outcome. Think of preparing intensely for a job interview. You research the company thoroughly, you practice answering potential questions, you prepare thoughtful inquiries of your own, and you present yourself with confidence and authenticity. You do everything within your sphere of control. The reserve clause asks you to then release the final decision, which rests in the hands of the interviewers, influenced by factors you cannot possibly know. This mental shift allows you to walk into the room with a calm composure, free from the desperate energy of needing a specific yes. If you get the offer, you are grateful. If you do not, you can rest in the knowledge that you performed your part with excellence, and that this outcome may simply be life redirecting you toward a different, perhaps better, path. Where in your own life are you gripping an outcome so tightly that the anxiety over the result is overshadowing the quality of your own action? How could adopting this simple reserve clause, this commitment to your best effort paired with a serene acceptance of any result, bring a new and profound peace to your endeavors? Anger is a brief madness, a temporary surrender of your own reason. Marcus Aurelius saw this emotional storm not as a justified reaction, but as a failure of his own judgment, a sign that he had misinterpreted an event. He believed the true root of anger was not the other person's action, but the internal story he told himself about that action, the swift and certain verdict that he had been intentionally wronged. His antidote was a deliberate and rational analysis, a series of questions designed to deconstruct the anger before it could take hold. He would ask himself if the offense was truly the result of malicious intent, or if it was far more likely born from simple ignorance, a lack of understanding on the other person's part. Then he would look inward, questioning whether the event had actually affected his core character, his virtue, or if it had only challenged his pride or his expectations. He wrote that we are often more troubled by our opinion of the event than by the event itself. Consider the universal modern trigger of road frustration. Another driver moves abruptly into your lane. The initial, visceral judgment is one of personal disrespect, a story that this stranger acted with deliberate carelessness toward you. This story ignites the flame of anger, but now apply the Stoic pause. Ask yourself, was that action truly intentional malice directed at you, or was it far more likely a moment of distraction, a parent late for a school pickup, a visitor unfamiliar with the lanes? Has this event actually diminished your inner character, your capacity for patience and understanding, or has it only challenged your sense of entitlement to a clear path? By examining the judgment, you drain the intensity from the situation. The other driver's action remains the same, but your internal narrative shifts from one of personal violation to one of human fallibility. The next time you feel that familiar heat rise in your chest, pause for just a single breath and inquire with gentle honesty, what specific judgment have I made that is causing this feeling? Is that judgment an absolute and undeniable truth, or is it merely one possible story among many? This simple act of questioning is not about suppressing emotion, but about reclaiming the space between stimulus and response, the very ground where your calm and your freedom reside. Do not seek for things to be grateful for. Recognize that everything that exists according to nature is a gift. This was the profound shift in perspective that defined the gratitude of Marcus Aurelius, a practice far removed from sentimental thankfulness. For him, it was a fundamental recognition of the sheer opportunity to participate in existence itself. His morning reflections were not a checklist of pleasant events, but a deliberate preparation for the entire day ahead, a conscious acceptance of all that might come. He would mentally acknowledge the people he was likely to meet, not just the agreeable ones, but also those who were difficult or ungrateful or obstructive. He saw each interaction, no matter how trying, as a necessary component of the whole, a chance to exercise his reason and his virtue. The very air he breathed, the capacity of his own mind to comprehend the world, even the hardship that tested his patience, all of it was part of the same intricate, generous system. This is a gratitude grounded not in favorable conditions, but in the raw material of life itself. You can cultivate this same perspective with a simple modern practice. Instead of just listing the obvious blessings at day's end, try mentally noting 3 Stoic gratitudes during the day itself. This could be gratitude for the unmoving traffic jam that offers a quiet moment to simply breathe and observe, or for the demanding colleague who unknowingly gives you a daily workout in patience and clear communication. It is finding the hidden gift woven into the fabric of the obstacle. Beyond the obvious blessings, what difficult person or situation today can you find a hidden reason to be grateful for? That very irritation might be the precise tool you need to smooth a rough edge of your own character, transforming a daily frustration into a quiet gift of strength. The universe is transformation, life is opinion. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words not as a poetic observation, but as a foundational truth to steady his mind against the relentless flow of time. He understood that a deep, heartfelt acceptance of impermanence was the ultimate antidote to both clinging and fear. All things, from a moment of physical pleasure to the sharp sting of emotional pain, from public acclaim to personal transition, are in a constant state of motion. They arise, they have their brief moment, and they pass away into the next form. He used powerful, elemental images to anchor this truth, describing time as a river, a moving stream of events, and life itself as a burning log, turning from one state to another, from fuel to heat and light, and finally to memory. This was not a dark fixation for him, but a source of profound liberation. By accepting the temporary nature of everything, he could engage with the world fully without becoming a prisoner to any single part of it. Think of the dizzying speed of social media trends, where a topic can dominate global conversation for one day and be utterly forgotten the next. Or consider the stock market, a visible representation of constant flux, where fortunes are made and unmade not by solid objects, but by the shifting tides of human confidence and fear. These modern phenomena are simply vivid echoes of the ancient Stoic principle that to resist change is to resist the very nature of existence itself. What is one thing you are currently holding onto that you know, deep down, is impermanent? It might be a particular phase of your children's lives, a specific title at work, a certain state of your physical health, or even a cherished possession. How does consciously acknowledging its fleeting nature, not with sadness but with clear-eyed understanding, begin to change your relationship to it? This recognition does not diminish its value. It enhances the preciousness of the present moment you have with it, while simultaneously loosening the grip of anxiety about its eventual passing. The river flows on, and in accepting that current, you find you can finally stop struggling against it and begin to float in a state of serene participation. Stoic calm is not a state you achieve, but a muscle you exercise every single day. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations as a finished philosophical treatise to be published. He was actively working out, rehearsing his principles again and again in the face of new challenges. The journal itself is a testament to this constant practice, a gymnasium for the mind where he returned to the same basic drills of control, perspective, and acceptance, not because he had mastered them, but because he needed to keep them strong. Just as you would not expect a single visit to a gym to transform your body, you cannot expect to read about Stoicism once and be forever changed. The transformation comes from the daily repetition, the mental push-ups that build resilience over time. Think of how a musician practices scales every day to keep their fingers nimble and their ears sharp, or how a runner logs miles consistently to build endurance. Your mind requires the same disciplined, habitual training. A powerful way to embed this practice is to weave small Stoic reminders into the fabric of your day. It could be a single line from the meditation set as your phone lock screen, a word like acceptance or perspective written on a notepad on your desk, or a moment of reflection while waiting for your morning coffee. These are not magic spells, they are subtle cues that call your mind back to its training, interrupting the automatic flow of reaction and creating a sliver of space for a more reasoned response. This is how philosophy moves from an interesting idea to a lived reality. It is the accumulation of tiny, consistent choices. With all these principles now laid out, from the dichotomy of control to the view from above, what one Stoic idea from this exploration will you consciously practice at least once tomorrow? Will it be pausing to separate what you control from what you do not before a difficult conversation? Will it be mentally rehearsing a calm response to a potential frustration? Your commitment to that single, deliberate act is the first repetition in building your own unshakable inner strength. His calm was not a gift, but a daily construction project. Marcus Aurelius built his inner peace one deliberate thought at a time, using the very materials of crisis that would overwhelm a less disciplined mind. He left us a blueprint in his meditations, a personal guide to resilience that has weathered 2,000 years. The journey we have taken through his world reveals a few timeless pillars. The clear line of the dichotomy of control, separating what is yours to command from what is not. The fierce embrace of Amor Fati, learning to love your fate exactly as it unfolds. The grounding power of mindfulness, anchoring you in the sufficiency of the present moment, and the ultimate alchemy of seeing every obstacle not as a barrier but as the very path forward. These were not abstract ideas to him, they were his tools for navigating life. He offers us perhaps the most potent summary of this entire practice with a simple, world-changing instruction. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is the quiet, revolutionary truth. Tranquility is not found in a life free from difficulty, but in the disciplined mind that meets difficulty without being broken by it. Your own life, with all its unique pressures and unexpected turns, is your personal meditations. It is your training ground. The philosophy only becomes real when you put it into practice. We would love to hear which Stoic principle you will try first to build your own calm. Share your choice in the comments below, and if you are ready for more practical wisdom to navigate life's challenges, subscribe to continue this journey together.